Hello, hello. Another
The
Q&A.
music's over. I'm sorry. Here we go. Dash, you go put away for a while here. All right. Cool. Yeah. Hey, I always dance during the opening music and the closing music because it's got an upbeat. It's really kind of cool. Also gets me awake a little bit better too. So,
Do you know
hey.
something different? I am missing my Flutter. No.
Yeah, the big banner you had in the back, right?
Big banner. Yeah. So
what happened to that?
we got. It's all right. It's at the venue. It's been taken from the venue. It was at our extended event that we were doing. So I haven't got it back yet. And I was just trying to find actually one or two items, but I've misplaced them here. But we did some 3D paper dashes that you can cut out and put together.
Cool.
Actually, no, I know where one is.
Well, hi, Simon. Should we say hi? Oh, I guess we're not going to say hi, Simon. We'll talk to Simon's chair for a second. Hi, there's Simon's chair.
There you go.
Okay. Oh, there he goes. Cool.
When you put it together, and it looks like that. There you go.
Yeah. Awesome.
And we got some stickers and some all sorts of fun things. It was a great event and some great speakers. So can't complain. There's lots of other Flutter Forward extended events. So anyone out there that's interested, go check out the website. They link to them, and I'm sure if you check Meetup or your local Flutter meetups, they're probably doing one or something related to it. So
cool.
Right, let's get on with the usual piece.
Yeah. Hi, Simon.
Trying to do your do's and don'ts.
Is that my job or your job?
Yeah, go.
Oh, what the heck? Okay, so again, these are simple. They're just to keep the peace. Everybody be nice, please. Don't post anything that's adult content. Don't promote anything. Don't be spamming us with that kind of stuff. And don't be asking your question over and over again. Every time you ask the same question, you get pulled out of the queue and put later in the queue. Too bad, because that's the way I do this stuff. That's the way we do this stuff. And also, if you spam too much, we block you for a while. We send you to a little timeout. So just don't do that. Don't harass anybody. We take that seriously, and you will be banned, not from here, but from the community. So be careful. But do have a good time. We enjoy researching things, answering questions, bringing on very special guests, which I'm sure Simon will introduce in a moment, after he introduces us.
Yes. And yes, let's do that now. So my name's Simon Lightfoot, Flutter Community Leader and CTO at Dev Angels London. And you can follow me on Twitter at Dev Angels London. And Scott can't be with us. He came down with a case of COVID. He's quite ill. So we wish him the best. Randall, introduce yourself.
And I'm Randall Schwartz. I am a active Flutter developer, but I'm also the very first batch of Dart and Flutter Google developer experts, which means absolutely nothing except that I put a lot of time into this stuff, and I can answer really cool things sometimes. I spend all my time on Stack Overflow and Reddit and all sorts of places that people could ask questions, Discord, Slack, whatever. And I'm also the question manager for this show, which means if you're in the live chat, and we hope that if you're not and just watching this on playback, that instead you join us on the live chat next week.
For sure.
Then you ask your questions, put a Q in front of them, because then I see them and know that they're for the panel. They're for us. If you don't put a Q in front of it, I think it's just general chit chat. So put a Q in front, then I know to bring it in for us. And that's really about all that is. So ask your questions. We take them live. We answer them live.
I don't know if anyone noticed, but we changed our thumbnails. Now we have a Randall question magician in the background. So
it's me. Yay!
So
cool.
We're getting there.
All right.
We're getting there.
Cool.
Right, and we have some other guests. So let's get them on. Let's get them on the screen. Let's press some buttons here. Hang on, where are we? Let's introduce Majid. Majid, welcome to the stage.
Hello. Hi, nice to meet you, everyone.
And we also have John Weiss, another member of the community. There you go, John.
Hey, how's it going?
And Swav. There you go, Swav. Everyone's on board now. We can it's easier this way, isn't it? So we'll go around the table. Majid, please introduce yourself in case people don't know who you you are.
Sure. My name is Majid, and Flutter GD, very active in the community, one of the admins Flutter community. And you probably see me on Twitter and social media with the handler MHA Daily. So that's me.
And I'd say you're also the lead inspiration behind the Plus plugins as well, the community Plus plugins. Swav, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Swav. I'm Flutter GD interviewer and lead developer, Flutter lead developer, and King Carter.
And massive Flutter enthusiast.
Yeah, very old one. Yeah.
Yeah. John, please go ahead.
Sure. John Weasley, I'm with Microsoft. I've been doing Flutter since the early days. I don't know, 2017, late in 2017, early 2018. Just kind of more enthusiasm, side job, and then got us involved in bringing dual screen and large screen support to the framework when we decided to go ahead and extend some of the Android work that we've been doing over to Flutter.
Cool. So, as we said before, make sure you get your questions in the chat. We're going to chit chat about some other topics here, but yeah, get that queue in front of your questions, and we'll identify them and bring them in. Anything you want. Right. I mean, how have you guys been trying out any of the new features from Flutter announced in Flutter Forward last week?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There are lots of good ones. I think my favorite was the element embedding, and also the RISC-V support natively to Dart. I mean, these are the two ones that I'm very excited about. This is because probably I'm into these two technology a lot. So these are my favorites, to be honest.
I'm kind of curious. Swap, do you have a favorite about any of the new features?
That's Dart 3 Alpha and everything which goes in it. That's my win. It's like pattern matching. That's really something I was waiting for so long. If you remember I think was it 2019 GDE Google I/O.
It was 2019.
Yeah, just before we had this conversation with a Flutter team. What do you need? What do you like to have essentially better in Dart and Flutter? And we were like, yeah, I want to have these things. And finally we got it. Yeah.
I'm just trying. I think did Michael Thompson leave instructions on how to enable the experimental mode or anything? We might have to give this a go later live on the stream. I'll have a look. But yeah, maybe we have a play around with that. John, how about you? Anything?
Yeah, I mean, just stuff that's already been mentioned. You know, the RISC-V support has been great. Something to play around with. Been looking into that a little bit this week. I know you spent some time last week on the show, as I caught part of it on the side in meetings. But yeah, though that, and then a lot of the stuff that they showed for the future. You know, the 3D work, the impeller work, and some of the stuff coming there is very exciting.
I was taking a look through the Flutter repo earlier and the engine, just trying to work out how I can enable that impeller, the impeller 3D stuff. I found out how you do it, but you have to build a custom engine right now. So I'm gonna give it a go though. I think that might be fun, but maybe I can share a few links with people. But yeah, there's an experimental mode flag, and you compile it with that, and then it adds all the stuff in, and then you get that the scene node and all that kind of node stuff. Then in your app to use. But yeah, anyway. Do we have any questions? Do we have any questions? Yeah.
There's a few rolling in.
All right. I mean, so this is quite a good one. I'm going. Sorry, Randall. Do you want to add something?
I was just gonna say we have 7, so let's keep going.
Oh.
Yeah.
So sorry. Christian, who's one of our, I think we should make him a moderator or something, because he's always been here. He couldn't stay for today's one. He left this message earlier, but he said, "Is it okay to call theme.of context from build, or would it be better to move these to did change dependencies like media crew.of?" I mean, from my perspective, it's exactly the same, right? So if you call theme.of or media career.of in did change dependencies, say it's exactly the same in terms of performance as calling it site build to a certain degree, right? So obviously build can be called multiple times, in which case it calls the theme.of multiple times, right? So you could call it did change dependencies and then store the value, but you're not really actually achieving that much in terms of performance, because both theme.of and media career.of are inherited widgets, and they use inherited widgets, and they're both cached in your local stateful widgets. So there's no actual benefit to storing those yourself. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Craig has a comment there.
Ooh, there you go. Is that Craig's talk? Did I miss that one? Sorry, Craig.
I think that's the one on the life cycle of a widget, which is a very excellent talk, Craig.
Yeah,
Thank you for giving that. I really understood so much more. And I know I've read all this stuff all the years, but you finally elucidated it in ways that I had just never been able to grasp. So thank you for that talk, Craig.
Craig, you're welcome to come drop by sometime. Just saying. Anytime.
I just pasted the YouTube video, so you can paste it to the comments.
Oh yeah, I'll do that, yeah.
Cool.
Then
cool. Well, let's see what the next question is here. Scroll. How about this one, I guess, huh?
Yeah.
Billy says, I'm trying to connect the dots for creating model classes for Firestore. And that cool code generation you showed a while back. Oh, what did he mean? What cool code generation? Did he show something?
I mean, there's several, right? Like, so I think it might have just been JSON. It probably was just JSON serializable, I would guess, or it could have been the what was the Swav Pantelis's package? I showed that as well. Data class. Was it called data class?
No. He just created code completion tool, and I don't know.
The data class plugin. Yeah, I posted in the chat. Yeah, data class plugin.
Yeah, so this is like you still have everything in front of you. You're generating entire code by doing this by using lint and the helper inside the IDE. It's not build runner running in the back doing stuff like freezed, for example, would do.
Right.
Yeah, because the other thing to do is to get freezed in place.
Yeah, you got and obviously you got the standard JSON serializable as well.
Yes.
Whatever. Yeah.
This is pretty cool when you want to have just part of the functionality of typical data class, not everything. It's like, oh, I want to have a copy with, and that's it. I don't need anything else. I want to have a copy. I want to have a comparator. Whatever equals hash. That's it. Done. Fine. I don't need more. If you go to freeze, you go to everything, and then it is dropped from the class during compilation. It's not needed. Right, if it's not needed, because we have a true shaking, so all the methods which are not used are going away during compilation, but freeze will generate them for you anyway. This one doesn't, because this one does exactly what you're asking for. Yeah.
Cool. I mean, we did say about for connecting the dots for creating model classes for Firestore CRUD. I mean the dots. I mean, so I think that's, and I actually haven't used the Firestore model stuff. So hang on, let me just bring this up on stream here. So let me hide that question for a second. Yeah, so I mean, I think it was in here. You've got this like this whole sort of t-extents object, right? And then that's how you reference it. I think there's. I don't remember where it was now, but the idea was that you do the whole sort of converting it for you, right? Do you know? Oh, yeah, with converter, that's it. Transforms document reference and manipulate custom object instead. So yeah, you basically all you need is a from JSON and a to JSON, right? Does that mean you need to implement an interface? Yeah. So what it's saying here, sorry, let me, I can't scroll down further, so let me just hide everyone for a second. What this is saying to, was it Verdi, is that you need to do implements from Firestore and to Firestore with your type. And if you implement these two, then it will work with this interface with the converter. So that's what you're missing probably. But if we look for from JSON, here you go. So this is what's not an interface? It's a function. Hang on a minute. Wait a second. With convert to functions.
And Marco says, I'm using with converter in my current project. It works pretty good.
This isn't actually, so this is dynamic, right? So model in this case is treated as dynamic within these two functions. So as long as you have a from JSON method that takes a map of string to dynamic and a to JSON that gives you back a map of string to dynamic, which matches these two functions, what they take as their parameter and what they return as their parameter, then this should work fine.
Cool.
Looks like from also supports optional options.
Optional options.
Oh no, that's this one here. Sorry. Right. Anyway, let's get back to it. Hopefully that puts you in the right direction.
Yeah.
Optional options. Yeah. That's all right. I missed that last question, but yeah, here's the next one.
Yeah.
How could we keep the scroll position of a scrollable when new items are appended or pre-appended?
Keys.
I
think keys. Isn't keys part of it?
Well, yeah, everything should be keyed. The problem here is that if you pre-append, right, it depends on the ordering, right? But if you pre-append, what you're doing is you're essentially putting an item in that's going to take, like, let's say each item's a height of 100 pixels. You put a new item in, it's going to push it down by 100, right? It's not like an infinite area. The scroll is not always has a value attached to it, right? A pixel scroll offset, right? It's a shame. I know the problem you're talking about. The way I've actually achieved this in projects before is to use the what's the flag? Like it's bottom up or something like that, isn't it? Where you can
reverse.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, reverse, right? Yeah. It's reverse, isn't it? And what you can do is basically when you render your list of content, you're rendering it in reverse, and then you order your list the other way around. So that way it kind of stacks the opposite way, so that when scroll happens, it doesn't, push the item down on the screen, right? So it's not ideal.
It's a tricky workaround, isn't it? You're reverting the order and actually how you align it just to hide the fact that you're adding something now on the end of the list, so you don't see it.
Yeah,
exactly how text message stuff works.
Very creative.
Right.
But it's totally a hack, but it works. It depends on what, obviously, if you're appending or pre-appending, you can't do both, right? Because if you one or the other is going to affect the offset. I'm hoping that maybe the work. Who was talking about 2D scrolling using Flutter during Flutter 4? There was a talk. Kate Lovett. Yeah. I think I'm hoping that maybe that might also kind of allude to this. But I think this is I'd say this is a flaw in the way that scrolling works inside Flutter, right? That, I mean, I've seen it lots of times, right? Where scrolling is based off that pixel offset, and then you want to add content and it's not referencing. It should be probably, I think we've seen this before when you want to do like infinite scrolling. Unless you want to scroll to item 10,000 in an index list. There's literally no good way of doing that without laying out all 10,000 items, because you need to know the pixel offset. So the way that most programs, of these systems work when they're on like Android, iOS, or other UI systems, is that this is still the same problem on Android and iOS as far as I understand. This isn't like just a Flutter thing, But the way you do it is your scroll position is the item, and then the pixel offset from that item. So it'd be the current top item in the viewport, and where your scroll is relative to that item. So when you scroll down, you instantly the next item is now 200 pixels to item 2 or something, and then negative from that. So basically, it means that whenever you add items, you're still hooked to that item that you are currently visible at the top of your viewport. So rather than storing a double value of pixel offset, you're storing delta pixels from position item. And that way you can jump to 10,000 by just saying go to 10,000, offset 0, pixel offset 0, and boom, that'll be there on the screen, right? There's no reason why it couldn't work that way. No, there's nothing particularly that limits you from doing this. It's just complicated, and it's not something that. So the whole sliver system is based off of a pixel offset. So you couldn't use slivers, and you couldn't use. You basically have to do a multi-child render object widget and do the whole scrolling bit yourself. It's possible though. To be honest, if you want a simple solution, is what we said.
I think Kate also has another video, which is like a workshop for building a good experience for scrolling in Flutter. And that is, I think it's around 40 minutes video, which, well, it's for maybe 1 year ago. I don't remember exactly, but I just pasted I just copied the link here. So you can take a look at this video as well. Also, there is another new video from her where she's talking about scrolling horizontally and vertically at the same time. So I think hopefully you will get some answer also there.
I mean, that's exactly the same problem, right? Like we've always had that problem in terms of because scrolling. I think, to be honest, I feel like scrolling should be one of those things that the item that holds the scroll state should not be a double. At the moment, we use double pixels. If they were just to change that to being scroll position, or not, we already have a thing called scroll position, but you know what I mean, like another variable that could hold multiple data fields and properties, then scrolling could be extended. Because at the moment, scrolling 2-dimensional, you just can't do that with a standard scroll controller, right? You're just limited to one axis because of it's just a double that represents the how far you've scrolled in that axis. So I think the problem we're going to have is I don't know what she's done in her video. I need to go check it out, but yeah, it's definitely I think something that can be improved inside the API for Flutter. All right. Anyway, I'll shut up. We'll move on. Next question. Do you want to take this one, Randall?
Yeah, but I can't answer it. You're probably better on answering this one. How are custom shaders different from what Flutter does ordinarily? How do we choose when we need shaders? From an unpronounceable name.
Okay. Do you guys want me to talk a little bit about the graphics pipeline? Should I do a little rant? I don't know.
It might be too much.
I try and keep it simple. So every pixel on your screen that you see right now with us on it has to go through a shader, right? In the modern CPU pipeline, that's how it works, right? Everything all a shader does is the idea is a fragment shader is the name, and a fragment shader takes should we say I'm trying to keep this simple. Basically, a fragment is the name given to a part of a triangle, right? So a fragment of a triangle, and that's normally a pixel, right? So at the end of the day is you're basically breaking up whatever you're drawing on the screen into pixels, right? Now, it means that you can apply some logic to choosing that color for any pixel on the screen, and then therefore you can do all these wonderful effects. It's really complicated, and there's absolutely no need to do it unless you're trying to do custom WYSI effects. So I'll give an example of where shader would come in handy and where it makes sense to do a custom shader. So first of all Flutter does normally, just to clarify your point, how custom shader is different from Flutter does normally, from what it does normally, is that Flutter have already made the shaders to draw a rectangle. They've already done the shaders to pick image. You with me? To draw a line. all these sort of things you do in Canvas are all sort of get compiled down to where the shader stack is, right? So that's all done for you. So you can just use all those standard things, like put widget here on the screen. It just works. You don't have to think about shaders whatsoever, and you shouldn't. It's where a good example where you might want to use a shader is, let's say, give a page turn effect. So let's say you were doing like a book, like a virtual book. You had the 2 pages, and then when you can drag one corner and it will kind of curl over, right? Well, Flutter doesn't have like an inbuilt widget for page curl. It doesn't have something in Flutter that does, puts a drop shadow behind and then will make that look 3-dimensional as the page curls. They don't do that kind of like 3-dimensional page curl effect. So that's where a custom shader would come in, right? Where you could take the content of the page, decide how much has been with input parameters, how much it's been curled or where it's been curled on the screen, and then based on that you can decide what pixels should be what color, i.e. how much it's been curled. Should it have a shade? Should it have a shadow? So on and so forth. And that's the logic you put in there. But again, this is the kind of thing that, yeah, it's great, it works, but there's very often you don't need to do it, right? Like there should be no reason for the average developer to touch shaders, right? There's a very particular use case where Flutter doesn't do the graphical thing you want it to do, and that's when you go to the idea of shaders, right? Does that, anything else from anyone else?
Speaking of that, shaders, I actually have a video with Joshim. So like the author of Umbera, the guy that you probably know on Twitter with Wolfram. I don't remember what
He was just here in London doing his
yeah, exactly. So we talked a lot for about like an hour. We talked about shaders and like the different shaders, what is in Flutter, how you should use it, and all these kind of stuff. So if you are interested to learn more about shaders, so you can also watch this video together with him. So we discuss a lot about shaders.
Links in the chat. Yeah, there's a lot of videos you can find about like how shaders work. If you want to browse some shaders and understand them a bit better, I can recommend shadertoy.com. So you actually might recognize some of these. I'll bring it up. Why not? I'll bring it up here. So the website is shadertoy.com. And if you go in here, there you go, there's a shader. Basically, I'll click on this one. So that what you see here, this image out of the 3-dimensional items, is all, there's no 3D items that exist. There's no triangles here. It's all done with pixels, right? And this is the logic that actually decides this function. Where is it? Shade, main image. Yeah, this function here is called for each pixel of the screen over here. So here's the fragment, here's the output fragment color. That's the color that you're outputting. And here's the input position in vector 2, so X and Y, of where it is inside the image. And based on that, and it decides how to rotate and all the rest of it. And it's exactly the same if we were to, I don't know, there's a ton of them on here. They've changed it since the last one on here, but there you go. How about that? This whole
that stuff all looks amazing. It looks beautiful. It's like it's amazing what computers can do these days. But it's also that it's only that code that you're looking at there. It's not really.
Yeah, it's amazing, right?
That. Yeah.
But the thing is, it seems amazing, but it's a lot of calculations to be done per pixel, right? So at a low level, it's quite simple because you're telling the graphics card to do this, and then a bunch of cores are actually performing that logic. There is actually there's an artist. Oh, I'm gonna have to. If someone wants to reach out on Twitter after this, we could probably dig out a video. There's an artist who works on the Pixar and Disney films and stuff like that, where they actually use shaders to generate the landscapes and all the backgrounds that they use and all these things. And he actually takes you through it step by step, building some shaders. It's really good.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah,
that'd be cool. I could just imagine a game designer from 20 years ago brought to today going, whoa, it's all done in the computer automatically for
Totally
you don't have to do the
different.
math.
Oh yeah, it's totally different. Yeah.
Totally different.
Yeah. I mean, the Doom engine must be like 10 lines long in these shaders. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
Right. Let's get the next question. We're trying to find. I can't find the video right now. Yeah. Right. Next question. Right. Where are we? Thank you, Mitho. Oh, another one. Can you elaborate on how to embed Flutter in a website to help with SEO?
Not really.
Actually, that's to be honest though, that's not actually saying this. You know the whole Flutter embed piece. What you could do, right, with the new Flutter embed piece is actually have a HTML page with all of your, meta tags and stuff, and then put an embed in there, and then you could do that for each of your URLs, right? I mean, I don't know, it wouldn't be nice. Also, the problem with SEO is the original SEO is meta tags. Now it looks at all the page content, it looks at the images, looks at all the host names that you reference, like all sorts of metadata that just you're not going to get from the page. I just wouldn't bother with SEO with Flutter. Like, it's just not going to happen. Look at other solutions. You can still use Dart. If you want to use Dart to build a website, you can do that. Just not Flutter, right?
You can even still use Angular Dart. The project is still actively going on despite having been abandoned by Google private stuff. Now it's a public project that has good leadership and continues to be developed. So play with it.
I mean, it having been abandoned, it's just that it serves the internal purpose, and that's what it is. So it's like we are not taking anymore the suggestion from community. We are building this internet as our tool to make AdMob and other tools that billions of people use around the globe, and they're exposed to Angular, Dart Angular, but it's no longer open and it's not supported by community anymore.
I'm sorry if I misstated that, but it's basically it's split, and now there's a community version and there's an internal version that still gets lots of active development. I understand, but the community one is they're looking at actually now what needs to be brought in place for Flutter 3.7. And also ultimately looking at Dart 3, trying to figure out what changes they can use to make some of the stuff easier. So, like I said, the project's still active. It's just not now the tight-knit thing that it was with Google when it originated.
There's also a bunch of actually packages recently. One of them, I tried to figure out, maybe you can help me to remember the name. They're kind of having this React style or some JavaScript frameworks API in Dart, so you can just use Dart, write like React, and just compile it to web as well. So there are a bunch of them already. There is one of them which was recently announced with a guy. I talked to him actually a lot, but I forgot it's just a shame I forgot the name of package. It was a very nice like a framework, web framework in Dart. It just comes with everything. Jasper, there you go. That one.
Yeah. JASPR, Jasper. That's an option. Jasper just released a new version, I think. 0.20, a couple of hours ago. 5 hours ago. There you go. I'll put it in the chat. There's lots of options. All right, next point. Yes, that's another one. Serverpod 1.0 was released this week. So Serverpod's a Dart server-side framework, similar to Dart Frog or some of the others.
More than that, it looks like it's also helps you build the client library. So you're sort of writing Dart that sort of sits on both sides and automatically handles the translation of serialization and deserialization somewhat transparently. I was pretty excited. I watched the video and I was like, now I got to have time to try this too. Let's see. I don't think I'm doing anything between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. now. It's one more interesting project that I'd love and Simon, we should get somebody from ServerPod on.
I think it will get more traction because with the emphasis now on having templating, using Mason and stuff like that, you get a nice template for every app you need, but you need a backend for it, and you need it quick because let's say you are a newspaper, you have your API, which definitely doesn't match what is in the template, so you need a middle layer to create very quickly to transform whatever your domain currently is to fit the app. You don't want to change the app because it's too complex. So you do what you do. You create this middle layer just using this, and you keep everything on there, in one language, and that's brilliant.
Yeah, wonderful stuff. Things are definitely coming along for server side.
Right. And I'm just hunting around trying to find the videos I was talking about. So painting a character with mathematics shows you how to do a shader, build like an actual three-dimensional character with a shader. And then there's also one here for a landscape. I popped them in the chat if anyone wants to follow up. Yeah. Right. Right. Jesper and plus Flutter embedding. I'm already working on it. Oh, yeah, Killian. He's the author of Jesper. There you go. Awesome. Excellent. Right. See, next. James Johnson. Dual screen. Is that the Duo 2? Does it support Flutter? Oh, John.
Yeah,
John,
I guess that's me. Yeah. So that would be the Duo or Duo 2. Both run Android 12L and therefore support Flutter. So all the work we did in the framework to add support to make it easy for you to detect if you're on a large screen device or even a dual screen device, and quite easily do that. We've done a few talks. I think I did a talk at DroidCon London, and we've done a few other DroidCon talks and a bunch of stuff. And I'll drop a link that we can share on finding out more about that. But yeah, it definitely is referring to the Flutter or to the Duo 2.
Brilliant. I'll pop that in the chat for everyone. All right, I was just a little quick thing. I see there's a few questions that if you want your question answered by us, get your question in with a Q in front of it, so we know it's a question for us and not just a question inside the chat for anyone else. Right,
so if we have time, I just want to mention two things which probably going to be interesting for at least one of them for our students. If you don't have question, I can maybe talk about it for a couple of minutes.
No, talk about it right now. It's fine. We've got a few questions. Time.
I'm not sure if you have any student on this call right now. There is a program from Google named Google Summer of Code. And this is actually something that is running for some year. And, that is a time of, year that usually you should check out the, program outline. So Flutter community, like last year, will be part of it again. So I will be instructor, hopefully together with Simon. So usually he's very busy, but we're going to have one project again into this program. So for just Dart from Flutter community. And that is going to be, well, I don't know what it will be right now, but hopefully we will continue this admin dashboard that last year we proposed, and one student made a very good progress on that dashboard. So hopefully we will continue doing that. So if you are a student and you want to be part of this, I think there are some incentives involved too. Like I think you get paid for a couple of $1,000s if you get selected and you finish the project as well. So obviously you need to do some work. It's like for some time, it's like a full-time job, right? So there are also a couple of other Dart projects, I think 2-3 more, which you can take a look and see if you can propose something interesting to the committee. Hopefully you will be selected. So definitely one person can be selected, even though thousands of a student usually send proposal, but you need to make sure you send your best proposal for these projects. So I personally am very interested to our project, like Flutter community. So take a look at that and send proposals. Hopefully you will be one of those students to work on the project. That was the first thing. I pasted the Summer of the Code website. I mean, if someone can paste it on the chat so people can see that. Learn more from the website. And one more thing, I think we should talk about, Simon and the rest of on this screen, we should talk about a couple of conferences that is happening in the next few months. Maybe some people have not heard about them. I will mention their name and you will help me. Yeah, this one, FlutterCon for sure. July, CFP is open. It's going to be a big conference together with DroidCon. So thousands of developers in the conference. So please check this out. One of the conferences. We will talk more about this. I'm pretty sure Simon will do. Another one is actually next week, Flutter Global Summit, which usually happens in February. It's online, and I think this year it's 3 days, 1 day workshop, 2 days conference. So they have usually like a free track and a paid track for senior talks or like more advanced talk. So take a look at that. And there are a bunch of workshops over there, including mine, which is free. And I actually realized I have 120 students signed up for the workshop. So wish me luck next week. So that is the next one. There is one more conference happening end of this month. If you are around in Europe, especially in Italy, make sure you check out Flutter Hero conference. It's happening on 25th of February. 24th is going to be workshop day, and well, you will find workshops over there. A lot of cool people are going, like speakers and interesting topics. So if you are around in Turin or Italy or like around that, join the conference as well. Yes, and another one is if you are just into like mobile development, there is another conference in Oslo in March. AppRise CFP is closed. There is a dedicated track for Flutter and also iOS and Android. So in fact, it's iOS, Android, Flutter. So nothing else. So this is interesting. So if you are like in Nordic or you can travel to Oslo, another conference that you can, I will share some discount code later. Hopefully I will share with you. You can also share it in the community so people can get discount.
I'm gonna suggest people follow the Flutter community YouTube channel where these things could be announced.
Yes, absolutely.
And the Flutter community Twitter, of course, yeah, as well.
Absolutely. And another one, if you are in France or you are around France, London, or somewhere that you can go to, Paris in June, there is a Flutter Connection conference over there. So a bunch of cool people that some of them I know, they're organizing a big conference in Paris. I think it's for the first time they're going to do that in English as well. So CFP is open right now. So you can also submit your talk. And I think it's Flutter connection.dev, or I hope Simon, you can double check while I'm talking about it. So yes.
So this is funny. In 2017, if you want to go to your closest, meetup about Dart, forget Flutter, just Dart. If you were in London, the closest one was in India, in Bangalore.
Yeah. Yes, flutterconnection.io. There you go.
Yeah, that's fine. I was going to say flutterconnection.io. Yeah.
So yeah, if you can travel to Paris, then this is another one that you should check it out. And then, of course, last one, which was FlutterCon, Berlin, 5th to 7th of July. So these are the ones that are announced so far. And I wanted to quickly shout out and tell people that, maybe you want to be a speaker, and some of them have open CFP right now. submit your talk.
I bet Nachita will be talking at all of them.
I will be in all of them.
I mean, it's Majid's job now. So, you know.
I know. That's all he does. He travels the world talking at conferences.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. So let's get back to some questions. I hope, and just to repeat, if anyone's coming in new, make sure you get your questions in the chat. Get them in pronto because we won't stay open forever, and make sure you put a queue in front of them. All right. I guess next question in the queue. Let's have a look. Do Dart isolates automatically close after returning data, or can we keep them for any amount of time we want to? How many isolates can we create without hampering performance?
Well, the second one's the easy one, right? It just depends on the device it's running on.
Mm-hmm.
Resources. I mean, the more resources, the more you can create.
I'm trying to think now. There used to be the isolates used to be quite heavy, but now they memory map. They fork and memory map the main isolate, I think. So they're actually quite lightweight in terms of resources, but they still have like a stack and stuff. So they might be like, honestly, I couldn't tell you if it's like a megabyte of RAM or 64K of RAM. You can go look at the, honestly, performance, try it yourself. They're always optimizing these things. But basically, yes, you can keep it running all the time, right? Like, so there's actually a new package called Isolate Agent, something like that, and which is the idea that you start up one of these isolates and then you hand data over to it. It kind of simplifies it, but you can always do this, right? Which is you create send ports and receive ports, and then you can like send data to an isolate and keep sending new data and receiving results back. So like, yeah, you could have a long running isolate for no reason, you know.
There have been many packages that do that and also manage the number of workers at any given time. The nice thing is there's a couple that have an interface that when you're running on JavaScript, like you're running in Flutter Web, it uses web workers with a fairly transparent API. It works the same way on both sets, which is really nice for you to want to port something if you have both VM and web versions of that. The other thing is that isolate.run got greater in the latest Dart 2.19. Isolate.run now makes it almost trivial to go, I've got CPU here, I want to use it, I have a tough task, just go off and do it and tell me about it when you're done. And that's it. And that's actually, it's probably 90% of the use cases, I'm guessing, for running something on an isolate right there. And for that, yes, the isolate is terminating as it's returning you that one result. But again, if you have a simple use case like that, that's what you want it to do anyway. You don't want to deal with send ports. You don't want to deal with extra packages and stuff. It's just built in. Isolate.run in 2.19. Check it out.
So you might want to go, Mitha, you might want to go check out isolate.run and how it's actually implemented. It basically was the compute from Flutter moved over to Dart, and then now compute uses Dart.run. But whatever. The point here is it creates a send port, receive port. It then spins up the function and then does all the sort of back and forth and all the kind of boilerplate stuff for you, right? The point here is that inside your function, if you return data, that's where it returns because of the way it's been built. But if you do call isolate.spawn yourself, you spawn up an isolate and then you can just return data whenever you want and it stays running. It's up to you to call isolate.exit at the very end to terminate the isolate, to be clear. Right, so they don't close automatically. They don't magic. But when you use this isolate.run or compute, it's designed to wrap around, so it does close automatically. So that's the idea, right? So in short, yes, it's all open. You can do it all. It's magic. See what else we got here. Arturo-san. I don't get it. Okay.
Yeah. For me, it's just copy and paste.
Oh, okay. What was the best fix for an issue with the JBR folders in Android?
Yeah. So in the newer Android Studio,
EEL.
in EEL, they create a second folder and they put everything in that. So you start getting hey, you got to set your Java home and you got to do all this stuff to make it work. because it doesn't know where to find Java. So the easy fix for me has been on multiple machines as I keep running into this is just copy everything that's in the JBR folder and just paste it in the JRE folder and things just work. But you can do a symlink like they're talking about or something like that, to just get it to work that way as well, or go separate path.
I believe there's an issue on this already, and I'm hoping a future release of Flutter is just going to make this all transparent to us. So the other thing you can do is downgrade to the D one. I think that's duck or something, whatever the one is before
Dolphin.
eel. Dolphin. There we go.
Dolphin.
And so you can just use the dolphin one until they get this fixed. So that's also a possibility.
Or just don't use Android Studio.
Yeah, well, true.
That's what I do.
Yeah, but
except Flutter Doctor yells at you.
I know this conversation. it's just what is the easiest for you, whatever you're doing. If you don't have to touch essentially this code, just switch to something which doesn't generate the problem. That's it.
Right. It compiles fine in VS Code, even with this problem. So I don't care.
Sorry, just reminded me that it works fine on my machine.
Yeah, it does. It does. It works fine on my machine. The problem is accepting the licenses. You can't accept the license now with Flutter, blah, blah, accept license because it's in the wrong place.
Yeah.
So again, for that, drop down to Dolphin, do it there, and it still seems to work then for having eel installed.
Probably just sets like a file in your home directory or something. All right, next question, I guess. Go on. Who wants to?
I mean,
so
nothing's been shared. Simon's probably got the most info, but I mean, everything I've seen doesn't give any dates or when it's going to hit stable. So.
Then it will hit stable when it's finished.
Right.
Right. As soon as it's finished, they will want to release it, and they will tell you us all about it then. So there is no magical plan, right? No. It's not. This is the thing. You have to think when you build software. These are the people watching as well as this. The person who wrote the question. When you build software, when do you know? When do you think you're going to release your software? When it's finished, or when it's got to a point that you're happy to release it, right? But there's no I'm going to say in 1 month's time I'm going to release this, when we don't even know what we're actually going to release yet. It's that whole marketers deciding when a release date is, right?
Simon's apparently insulated from this in the real world. I don't know what world he lives in, but in the real world, we do have release dates, and it's really annoying.
No, I know that, but what I'm trying to get is you have a release date for an app is different from let me point this out. So you have a release date for an app, right? And you estimate your features and everything else, right? But then you're working on new technology here. You're working on something that's never been done before. It's super low level. It's done when it's got to that point when it's ready to be released, right? Yes, it's not going to be. They have an idea about it's going to take a quarter. It's not going to take a year, or it's going to take. They have some concept of the deadline, but it's not going to be this day, right?
Yeah, definitely. No, it'll ship when it ships, and not before.
I think that, as I said earlier, there's actually I'll pop this. I'll bring this up in here. Why not? I was looking around earlier to try and find out how I might have a play around with it myself. So what I found was bling. So in Flutter Engine, there's Engine lib UI experiments, and in here is the scene, and this is that scene node. So this is what they showed on the.
Simon.
Oh yeah, sorry.
There you go.
There.
So yeah, so this is this file, and I'll post the link to the folder here in the chat. So anyone else who wants to see it can. But yeah, and there's UI, which kind of pulls in a bunch of other stuff. But yeah, this is all how they set up all the experimental stuff, and then also this is where they set up the service extensions for handling reloading. So they got reinitialize scene here. So set up hooks. So this is actually part of the standard toolkit. This is how these registry extensions is how the IDE does things like we tick the box for debug mode, how it then tells your actively running app to turn on debug mode and show like the borders and the lines. Well, they have an extra one here called schedule frame, which we'll call the schedule frame in here. And you've got reinitialize shader and reinitialize scene, and impeller enabled, so you can enable disable it, I guess, at runtime. So yeah, so there's some hooks there. But yeah, this is all I see. This is all I've seen so far. I don't know. It looks interesting. I haven't played around with it yet, but yeah. So, set animation, seek animation. It does the job. And then over here is add enable impeller 3D flag to Flutter, and basically from the looks of this, when I was looking through this is actually a build definition. So if you build, you have to build Flutter with that flag enabled, and then certain bits of code like this here will then be included in the Flutter engine. So this is add model layer, which is how you add a 3D layer, essentially one of these scenes, to the composite hierarchy inside of Flutter's renderer. So again, this is not compiled into the ones that you have at home right now. The ones that you're using, you would have to compile Flutter yourself, but then you could get this like add model layer function and all the rest of it to make everything work. So somewhere down here is add program argument. Enables experimental 3D support. So this is in the GN tool. This is how you build. Basically, it's a wrapper for Ninja, the build system. So that's actually how you build the Flutter engine itself. But I'll pop this in the chat if anyone's interested in trying it out. It is not for the faint of heart. You do need to know a bit of C if you want to be of that whole pipeline, if you're going to want to try it yourself. But it's open source, right? Like, go hunting. The next one, I guess. Why CocoaPods takes ages when building an app with Firebase? Because you didn't follow the guide. So what I'd say, let me explain what's happening. Does anyone else want to take this one? I'm sorry, I keep taking.
Go ahead.
So there is, does this still exist? I'm trying to remember where they actually put the Flutter Fire documentation now. It all got moved, didn't it? Firebase.flutter.dev is still there. I'm just going to bring this up because I'm pretty sure it's in here. In one of these, I'm going to go manual installation here just because I remember it was in here. Where was it? Oh, he says it's not there. I was pretty sure it was in here. Or do we not even need to do it anymore? And I'm mistaken. You know what I'm talking about, where you add the change to your pod file, right? Initializing. No.
So why don't you use the CLI to do it?
Click that banner at the top of the page. I know that's the new documentation path. Come on. But I didn't know if you got over there yet, because when I last looked at it, it didn't have it. That's what I'm going to say. But isn't there a I don't even know where it's gone now. I don't remember what the steps were.
Puff is probably at home screaming, trying to figure out how to get on.
Puff screaming, saying, "Do this, do this."
It's right there. He's probably saying that
right there in front of you. Well, I'd say follow the installation guide, but there is
go click on the Apple platform. Link on the left. Over on the left.
Ah, that's what I'm missing. Whoops, I was on web.
And then you go. Where is it? No. How did I get there?
I mean, there was a bit about adding. It doesn't say pod in here. There used to be a line you add to your pod file.
Yeah. Are you looking here?
Yeah, that's a good point. I thought we ported it. Puff says so. Maybe it's not in there.
Maybe click on the left side there. Click on the Apple Platforms iOS link on the above. In the right below that, right above Flutter, like 3 above Flutter there that you have highlighted.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
And then scroll down to keep going. I don't know if this is what you're looking for. Keep going. It's further down. There's a link after this. Our guide right there under CocoaPods up above.
Oh yeah. That's the one. That's the one.
Is that the one? Is that the one you're looking for?
Yes, this is the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think. Is this the one? Maybe it's not.
I don't remember.
No. That's
not the one. Okay.
No. It's basically. I don't. Is it? Do you even still need to do it? I don't even remember. It's been so. I haven't had to do it for a while. I was pretty sure.
I did that. Just use the CLI and it configured for me everything pretty quick.
Yeah, that's what I did as well. Well, maybe this is it. Maybe you should use the Flutter CLI tool to set up your application, and maybe it will do it all for you. But basically, I'm going to go back because I'm not finding it there. There's a line you can add to your pod file to include the precompiled binaries for Firebase. And this means that your builds don't have to compile Firebase as part of building the iOS app, which reduces your build time. But in general, just your initial build will always take a long time because it has to go fetch all the dependencies and probably build them and cache them and various other things. This is the same as it is on Android. If you don't have the Gradle packages, they have to go be downloaded and built and so on. So you're adding a big piece to your project when using Firebase. So hopefully, looks like they've actually it says here on their website, starting from version 8. Of the Apple SDK supports Swift's package manager instead of CocoaPods. So this is the reason why we're using CocoaPods is because that's what Flutter uses, right? But I think there was an open question that came out Flutter Vikings, which to Tim and the rest of the Flutter crew that were there, and that when are we going to support the next package manager like Swift package manager or whatever else? And it is something that I think the team are going to have to take up at some point for sure. CocoaPods is just too long in the tooth now. It really, and but it's such a big thing because every plugin has a CocoaPod spec. There's going to have to be an upgrade path. It's going to take time. So, but it's going to have to happen. So
yeah,
I believe it has to happen.
At some point, they're going to have to.
Yep. But yeah, there is some changes you can do to your pod file, and you're gonna have to go searching for them. But basically, you can add the precompiled binaries. Oh, Puff's saying something in the chat here. What's he saying? Good summary, Simon. Oh, that's nice. What's next? Initial build on Apple platforms is worse than Android. There you go. And then. So yeah, as I said, if you fix your version in your pod file to a specific version of Firebase, then you can add the precompiled binaries, and that means it helps with build times. Right. Moving on.
I'm trying to figure out if Randall's using a shader to hide something on his chest, or if that's just a reflection.
I have this one spot in my room that gets the perfect view of the sun right during the middle of this show. And so I'm going to be bouncing off the video for just a little bit. I'm behind the scenes. I'm still doing the questions. I probably won't be answering anything, but I got to cut off until the sun moves a little bit further. So yeah,
this is the Indiana Jones moment, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, it is lined up with this ruby over here. Just a second. Right? There's the treasure. Got it. All right.
How do I handle text selection in a text field using a custom keyboard?
How do I handle text when using a custom keyboard numpad? and not iOS keyboard. Oh, so you're making a custom. Okay, so you made a custom keyboard in Flutter, and you want to like highlight the text.
Well, is that what they mean?
Handle text selection and also control the movement of the cursor. So okay, so I can tell you what you're probably missing.
There's a second piece to that question that has more info.
There is.
Yeah, I think you had something right after that had more info. Yeah.
In the text field, since characters are added to the text field with unschooled.
Yeah, you know how if you just keep keeps moving the cursor on you.
Yeah, I know exactly what the problem is. And we can describe this in let's bring up some SDK.
Do some code. Do a sample.
I don't think we'll go that far right now. but the SDK does have what you need. So so the problem is people mistake text controller as just being for what's it called, text editing controller as just being for text. It's not. It's text or selection properties, and this is what you're missing. So if you what you're doing is you're using this text property to set the text to set the text value. And what it actually does when you set it is this. It copies the current value, it sets the new text, and clears the selection. And this text selection.collapse -1 is basically saying set the text into the very beginning and don't have a text selection. And the composing area is the area that you're currently editing, and that's empty as well. So you don't want to be using this. You should not be using the text value. What you should be doing is, in fact, exactly what this is doing here, doing text controller.value equals text controller.value.copy with, and then you can change the text selection. And in saying your own text selection on the text editing value, that will essentially move the cursor. So a text selection, if I can load it up, the text selection class has basically a start and extent. What is it called? Base and end, something like that. No, it is extent. There's two values to it.
There was start right there. Yeah.
Basically, base and extent, right? And when base and extent are the same value, it has 0 size, which is where the cursor is. And the cursor always follows the end of the text selection. So if you have a text selection that is, let's say, 10 characters long, you'll highlight the 10 characters on the screen, and then the final character will be where the cursor is blinking, right? But you could just move the cursor by just setting a text selection with 0 width. Basically, it has the same start and end, and the character position is where the cursor would be, right? And yeah, I mean, it's that simple, really. And text position is what holds the offset. The affinity is all about like if text is inserted at this text position, does it go to the left or the right of the cursor? So it affects the downstream or upstream with right to left. You can go read all about this. You don't need me to explain it. It's very well documented. But yeah, so the problem is you're using the text setter rather than the value setter, which is what you should be using. And it is actually explained in here in text of the controller. As I said, setting the text and selection properties. So hopefully that puts you in the right place, David. All right. All right. What else we got? Train of thought. Need career advice as a Flutter junior developer. How long does one need to stay in a company before switching to another one? What are some of the questions to ask during the interview?
That's very simple. You're staying as long as you're learning thing.
Yeah,
that's what it is. Yeah. And to be honest, you don't have to learn just on the Flutter if it essentially largely fits the idea who you want to be in the future. This is how long you're staying. Being a senior developer doesn't mean that you are just senior developer in Flutter. You're just senior developer. This means that you know how to help junior developers move forward, right? This is where you're getting, essentially, this is what you're gaining by being a senior developer, and this is what will be expected from you as a senior developer. Then you'll have people on the team, and you'll have to help them to organize what they do, working, solve problems, or help them actually get it. You cannot do everything for them, because otherwise you will be just doing everything like Simon does on every project. He just does everything by himself and not letting anyone else do it.
I don't shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted a quick reminder. I see some questions coming in. Make sure if you want us to answer your question, you put a Q colon in front of your question, and then we can bring that up in the live stream. All right. Sorry. Yeah. So was there more? Did anyone else want to add anything to this?
No, I think you guys hit it. Yeah, as long as you're learning and enjoying, and not looking for a new challenge.
How about the second part of this, which is, if you were to go and interview somewhere else for a Flutter role, what would be the questions to ask during the interview? What would you think?
If I was going to interview for a new role, I guess one of the things I'd want to make sure is that they're committed to Flutter. I'd want to find out what their history is with it. Is it something they're just exploring? Is it something that they're definitely committed to building, a solution on? Do they already have something? I mean, part of that is, is it for a new product?
I suppose it would. That's a good point, because I suppose it depends on what you're comfortable with as well as a developer. Because if you're like going to be the only Flutter developer and they want you to lead their Flutter stuff, that's fine. If you're confident doing that, obviously you're saying you're a junior, but if you're confident just finding the path forward and actually bringing Flutter, then it could be your responsibility. And that's a great way to learn. But obviously, then you're responsible, right? Like, there's a difference.
Yeah. But also you can ask questions around the way their ways of working. So that usually what is their modus operandi, how they like structure the project and specific stories. Will you be involved in actually shaping them or whatever? How much say you have in it? Or is it like they're going to tell you, okay, these are the tools you're going to use and this is what you're supposed to be doing? Maybe you may not like it, right? What you're hearing. So asking these questions as much as possible to see what this work will involve, because it may involve that you will be like have to figure out your own way around it or find a very interesting solutions to the problems they don't know the answer, or they will be telling you essentially to do the stuff the way they're doing it, because there's 100 other developers who do the same thing, and if you do this differently, it won't gonna match, right?
Yeah. And Simon's point too, even what does the team look like? Do they have a designer that's giving you designs? Are you going to be responsible for it? Do they have a back end team? Do they have all those different things that go into an app?
If it's a startup, you can also just be expected to deal with all this yourself, right?
Exactly.
That's exactly what I wanted to say. Actually, like all of the points that you're making is actually really depends on what type of company you're going to join. Like if it's like 2-3 people in the company as a startup you're going to join, or it's like hundreds of thousands of developers like Microsoft, for example, is very different. So you should probably have a very good understanding of the company. Like you really need to like learn who they are, what they do, and then choose these questions and ask. So like if you go to a startup with 5 people, I think it's very irrelevant to say, oh, what should I get as a backend? You're probably going to be involved with everything from design to UX to, everything.
But that's actually a very interesting place, because you can try very many hats at the same time.
Exactly.
You learn a lot that way.
This all comes, I think, to me at the end. What is your goal of being, in a couple of years after now, so it's important that you find your purpose, your goal, and see yourself at some point in the future. So then all of these questions probably comes to you, so automatically.
All right, thank you for the question. Let's see.
Next,
what else we got here? Roberto, I have a text widget which is a const, but as soon as I use theme.of content headline 1, I lose the const benefit. Any tips?
You can't do it. Why?
Well, it's no longer const because
it's const. Think about what number 1 is a const, and this is what a const is. whatever its shape has, it's just number one. It never changes, and it was there before your program ran. So if you ask of theme of context, sorry, you have to run to figure out what is theme of context. So yeah, right?
I have a little trick about this one actually.
Yeah.
So there's a trick here actually. So what you can do, and this is not particularly about this one. Again, it all depends on your layout, right? But the text widget will use the inherited text style. What's it called? Oh my god, the widget
text
just left
scheme?
my head. I can't believe it just
You can
forgot this.
create essentially console of what you want to find and then use it, and then it's gonna be. It's like, I think the pi is the same problem. You cannot make a what was it, pi? I don't know. Somewhere I was doing some calculations and I couldn't make a const, and it was like, I would like to have it a const. So it wasn't pi. It was square root square of 3. I need it, but as a const, possibly, because it's then faster. And so what I do, I just open calculator. I ask essentially what is the square root of 3, and then I put it in as my const. That's it. I'm done. I don't have to recalculate it in time more. It doesn't go to the stack. It's just compiled with a binary. It is there. And this is what the const is in your app. It never changes. It was there before your app was really running. So it was no way involved in a runtime. It was during the compilation time.
I seem to remember actually, is it in Dart 3? Was it in a new version of Dart? They were talking about adding more const functionality and behaviors so that you can actually run functions during compile time to return a const value, something like that. Like there's more sort of support.
Yeah,
for that.
they're trying to expand const. I've seen
it wouldn't solve this. It wouldn't solve this. But the thing I was thinking was default text style. So basically, what you can actually do is, if you've got like lots of widgets, you can still keep those text widgets constant and wrap them with a default text style that does theme.of context. But yeah, again, you're not really benefiting much from that. The interesting point here is to remember that, Roberto, that you can, if you pull out your text widget that does theme of headline 1 into its own widget, right? And we call it a headline 1 text, right? Now you can construct that as a const inside the parent tree, and then the child widget can still do the lookup, right, in its build method. So that makes your leaf nodes perform some function, which they would do anyway, but the construction of them is constant. Does that make sense? So again, it's about just pulling out those use cases that you're repeating and using, and if you want to make the actual widgets constant, you can.
I just have to add to this by remembering that 40 years ago, when I was first learning Pascal, I remember that the instructor said, we're going to put this in the const section because I might want to change it later. And I'm going, const change? It just didn't fit together. But he was right. You put const, the things that you're going to change. Anyway, all right.
All right.
I can do the next one. I'll do the next one here. Right. Hold on. On Firebase, are there examples we can use to make? Yeah. See ya. Are there examples we can use to make rules strong so that we can limit data flow between Flutter app and Firebase? Ooh, the whole topic of rules. Who wants to take that on?
I've done a bit of it. So I don't know if I was limiting the data, but limiting the access to the data that you can have or modifying. So you can essentially write the conditions when something is allowed, some read is allowed, or some write is allowed. But I don't know if there were actually size of a field limit there, or actually, yeah, there was some write restrictions.
See, and now Puff is gone. We can't ask Puff. He's not here anymore.
Yeah,
he bailed just ahead of this question. I think he actually saw the question.
Yeah, but he probably saw it come through. And
yeah. But yeah, I was always trying to find someone else's projects to find their rule sets and trying to figure out what is possible there. Well, actually, I haven't played with a limit of data for a specific field or specific document there. But what you can do is that you can essentially allow to access only specific parts of the document, of the path on a directory when you're looking for a document, and essentially this way you say, okay, you cannot put more because this is how much it's going to fit in there.
Maybe Simon can answer this.
Go on. What's this on Firebase? Are there
data limit on Firebase?
How to limit data flow? I mean, limit data flow between Flutter app and Firebase. Data flow? You mean
That's
how
what
much
rules
data?
are?
Because it's like sending and getting stuff back. Is like, can you do that?
I don't know. No, but is that what they're asking?
Well,
what do you mean? I think I would ask for a clarification question on saying, what do you mean by data flow? Like, it's in you're trying to restrict data, because that's exactly what rules do. You can say you can't access this data, you can access that data, right? Can you limit by field, or is it just to document? I forget. But I mean, even if you do limit by document, even if it's just limit by document, you can create another document in a different collection, which has a different set of rules attached to it, which are only accessible to, say, admin user or something. And also Puff's in the chat. I'm sure Puff would now be able to.
No, he bailed.
He's not anymore.
Oh, he bailed. Did he bail?
I think he saw the question and decided he was going to leave before it came up.
All right, let's see now. I mean, yeah, repost and we'll see what we can do. Next question, I guess. Legends from the Flutter side. I navigate to Android native page, and then I'm passing a value to the native, from native to the Flutter using method.invoke, and I listen to the channel method call. Oh, is it because it's gone to another? In the Flutter side, I bring the value. I could have it, but when I try to update the UI with the value, the UI doesn't even when using set state. Because you haven't returned the problem here is your UI is still showing your native page, right? Like you said, so the very first part here, you're saying you'll navigate to an Android native page. So you've maybe navigate to another activity or to a fragment, and that your Flutter code is either no longer running or it's paused in the background. So what you need to do is get that data back. Now you're saying you're posting it back, but what you should be doing is probably your method.invoke you should not be invoking a method back. You should be returning a value. So when you invoke a method from let's say Flutter to Android, in your Android code, and let me just bring up the API for those that don't understand, just so people can follow along. So I'm not just talking.
Okay, so one thing I can see here is that essentially Android has activities and it can run it in a different manner, one on top of each other, right? Yeah, and if you're going back, Android was built in a way that is just this like a juggling of activities. Only one has it in a hand, everything is flying, so this means you don't know if they are suspended. So what you're doing is this is your Flutter one. Throwing it up. You're taking, the Android one, the native one, but this one is dead. No, it doesn't work. When you go back, is you essentially restituting this, but its state is reset. It doesn't know where it was, and so on. And usually in Android, to solve this thing, there was essentially you were waiting for a result of a previous activity. There was a handler for it, and you put essentially the activity for result. Was it activity? Yeah. Activity for result, and you're checking this result from a previous activity, and then you can pass it to your Flutter activity to say, hey, I just signed up to Facebook. Hey, I'm in, right? And this is how it actually works. Right?
I'm gonna caveat what you said. Just because you return back doesn't mean you have actually returned back. So what I mean by that is visually you might have returned back from that to Flutter, but Flutter is still waiting for your invoke method to finish. That's the problem I'm talking about. So that's why your state, I think, is paused. So
yeah,
if you
that's a result success. Yes.
If I bring this up on the
But you
screen,
need, but behind the
hold on.
after this result success, you need to have a handler which actually handles this in Android.
So yeah, in when he's got this in Android, I believe at the moment. So you've got you have this method call handler in your Android side, which says on method call, get your method call, and have the result. You always need to complete this result. Otherwise, the asynchronous code inside of Flutter is going to be awaiting forever, right? It doesn't know when it's finished, right? So here you'll see that you've got 3, success, not implemented, error. You have to answer with one of these 3. Success can be answered with null as the value here for object, which means you completed with like void. You know, there's no return value, but you have to complete. Now, what you can do is if you've got something like you're saying, you're launching a Flutter, a Android native page, then what you would do is store your method channel dot result in a variable, and then call the success or whatever on the result of it. Anyway, what's this? Sorry, someone's brought up a part of the question. I didn't see that. You should speak up, Randall. We can hear you.
Say it's the same guy he's following up. So he's saying,
even when I pass the value to you with result success, then call finish to close the activity and go back to Flutter. I go back to Flutter page. I'm not able to use it on Flutter page. You are. So what's probably happening here? So there's 2 things, and this is what actually it's complicated here. So first of all, make sure you're calling finish on the right activity. I'd say that one. Also, when another activity appears, it can free the activity behind. So you need to make sure that the activity you're displaying, if it's your own one, has the transparency flag, which will keep it active. Or also, if you go into your, if you can repeat this problem, you can definitely repeat it if you go into developer options and set don't keep activities to true. It will forcefully get rid of the Flutter activity. But I think what you might be experiencing is when you return back, your Flutter app is like restarted, and then your result that you've got is no longer valid. So results of success does nothing. What you need to do in that situation is exactly the same what the image picker plugin does, and that is it stores the result, and then the app calls a function called get last result, and then so when your Flutter app starts back up again, it gets the last result from the plugin, and then carries on where it left off. But it's complicated, right? Like you might have to maintain your own state.
I think this is the wrong venue for this. I think you need to take this to Slack or Discord or something, and where we can paste code and stuff.
Yeah,
I'm having trouble visualizing without the code, so I think that's probably part of the issue here.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a great venue. It's just not a venue for that. So please bring it to one of the other community channels, please.
All right.
And we're saying goodbye to
Majid.
Majid.
So I'm gonna leave. See you. Bye.
We're just dropping by. See you. Let's carry on. Why can't we give a name of an app the label when creating a project, and later we have to manually change it in the Android manifest and info.plist? Because that's the way it is.
File a bug with Flutter and ask for a command line parameter for it. I don't know.
And just be clear that none of us here we're all community members. We don't work for the Flutter team. Just FYI, right? Just make sure you understand that we can't give name. I mean, is it really that much of a problem? I mean,
it wouldn't be hard to add the ability to do it, but
no, I just mean like you're typing in one place to stop you from typing in 2 places. In a couple of, but you know exactly where to type it. So what is the problem you're trying to solve here? Is it because you're creating lots of projects and that you need to automate this? Because you can automate it in other ways, right? You can create a quick script that you run that could make the change for you, right? You can make a little Dart script that loads the XML file, changes the value of the thing, and writes it back out to the file, right? And same for the plist, right? You can do that kind of stuff. So yeah, it might be interesting, but yeah, I would take your point on board. not sure it's a common practice thing to do because you normally want to go and change the icon. You want to like fiddle around with your themes in your native platforms. So there's a lot of manual stuff you want to do to release your app on Android or iOS. It's the same for desktop, the same for web. You want to change the favorites icon in your website. You know, these are all things that are specific to the platform. The tooling can't just have a generic set this, right? Because if it has a set fav icon, but that doesn't work on all the other platforms, it just doesn't make sense. So that's why you have the platform directories, and that's why you can go in and change whatever you want, right? Yeah, but I do take your point. You know, it might be nice to have a label, but yeah.
No, I'm just saying it's a good question. You're answering that question. Sorry, but I also did want to interrupt just a bit. If we want to do any live code demoing, we're probably going to have to stop the questions at this point. I mean, we have 10 questions in the queue, but we're going to have to stop taking any more questions if Simon wants to show off live code.
I haven't got anything like planned, but we could definitely try some of this like Dart 3 stuff, maybe. I don't know. Does anyone want to try Dart 3A Alpha?
That'd be fun.
All right. So let's.
But let's cut off the questions now. We'll answer the ones we have in the queue, but we're going to cut off questions at this point. Come back in 166 hours and do it again, and you'll be able to get your question in.
Same time next week.
Yeah.
Right. All right, let's move on. How can I add more actions in VS Code when I right-click on a widget and choose refactor?
Write your own extension.
You can write your own plugins and extensions and things like that for VS Code. But also that's really like, I've never done that before, so I wouldn't know. I mean, there should be there's got to be like loads of like guides and things to do extensions in VS Code to do that kind of thing, right?
Yep, we have a whole getting started there. I'll drop it in the chat for.
Oh yeah.
If only Dan Tuppeny was in this chat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the creator of the plugin.
Yep.
I noticed a couple of things actually. Over the years, I've noticed a couple of things. I need to file some bugs on them. I just kind of got used to them now, and that is things like if I have in the Android Studio / IntelliJ plugin, if I have generic pointy brackets in my widget name, it doesn't like give me the suggestions like it should.
How is it done in data plugin that Pantelis did? Because they are.
No, I mean, sure. Right? Oh yeah. No, I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just trying to say there's some bugs in the actual. I just reminded me there's some bugs in the current ones. Like if you have like a constructor that returns a widget that is a named constructor for a widget, so let's say switch.adaptive, you can't right click on the adaptive one and choose remove widget. It just doesn't think it's a widget, right? Because of the way it's laid out. Like it just doesn't understand that. So I don't know, but you can just delete adaptive and then do remove. So right, let's I guess move on. Tell us. Please come back and tell us if you figured it out, or tell us about your plugin next time once you've done it. Yeah. Do you recommend to use Flutter Flow when building large apps? I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't. But
depends what your flow is on your team. Because if it's your designer gonna be using Flutter Flow, perfect.
Yeah.
They're gonna drop it, they're gonna scale it, but probably you'll have to go through this and like make styles and replace all the values in it and so on. So there's still some work to do.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, I've not tried Flutter Flow in detail. I tried it when it first came out, when it was beta, when it wasn't even publicly released. So I've not tried it. There's I'm sure a lot has changed since then. But I think there's this kind of thing that let's say your app you're building is like I don't know, a web browser. You can't build a web browser in Flutter Flow, right? Like there's a whole rendering engine. There's all this kind of stuff. There's a bunch of things that you just is not applicable to Flutter Flow, right? So it does have its use cases. When you say large app, it's like, what do you mean by large app, right? So you could have a large app that is like Wikipedia, and that's perfect. You can do that in Flutter Flow, no problem, right?
Yeah, it depends on the app, depends on, what the needs are. I mean, even, there's cost involved, right? If you're going to use Flutter Flow and you're going to use it for a large app, there's probably, some cost involved because you're going to have more than 2 API calls that you're going to need, and you're going to have other things like GitHub integration and other things that you might need that involve costs. So there's trade-offs, to use Flutter Flow, not just can it do it or not.
Yeah. Is it possible to disable the system bottom navigation bar on Android using Flutter? Yes. There you go. Disable is an interesting use of the word here. You can hide it.
Yeah. So
you mean like the back, home, and recent apps buttons? You can hide the bar. That's called System Chrome. Hang on, let me bring up the API. So set enabled system UI mode is the method on system.chrome. It's a static, so you just do system.chrome.set blah 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 blah, and then the UI mode it has lean back, immersive, sticky, edge to edge. These are all it's all explained in here, but basically, I'm sure there was an easier way to see all the values. There you go. And these all have a different meaning to the way that the top status bar and the bottom navigation bar act on Android, and obviously, I guess there's on iOS as well, like this full screens or something. But and then the overlays is how you control the colors. So this allows you to control the status of the bottom bar and the top bar. And I believe was it set system UI style? I think it was the other one in System Chrome. Where is it? UI mode, switcher, overlay style. Yeah. And with this one, you can actually set the color and the brightness of the icons in the navigation bar and the status bar. So again, if you've got like let's say you go into movie mode, you got full screen video, and you want it's black, and you want the bars to be black as well, the top and bottom of the screen, or white icons, and then when you go back to the app, it goes back to white and flips. You can do all that with this. So yeah. Anyway, there you go.
If I had to work with this, I would go to the target devices and check how it actually behaves, because you're talking about the system, not Flutter. So this depends on if you're running LG, and it's going to be behaving differently than Samsung, and it's going to be behaving different than Google. So be prepared to see some funny stuff, happening. And some of the devices will have hardware buttons. So Samsung's, fine.
Yep.
But then you're going to have different ones. So how you essentially compensate for that? So just do some testing on some strange devices with different ways of controlling it.
And I will mention that you did say disable, and if you mean turn off and stop anyone from using those buttons, theoretically you can do it, but it's an Android-specific behavior. It's called what's it called? An admin app. You basically your app takes ownership of the responsibilities of the device, and you can turn it into kiosk mode.
So this is when you do the
well, there you go. It says that. No, I mean it's possible to make it. So it's nothing to in Flutter. You cannot do this directly inside Flutter. You can use Flutter to make it happen. That's what we just spoke about. You can basically do what's called a method channel and a plugin, and then you can put native code for Android into your app. So if you go to flutter.dev, flutter.dev docs, and over on the left hand side you've got platform integration, writing platform specific code, and inside here it talks about how this works. So basically in your Flutter app you use a method channel and you communicate to your Android code, and inside your Android code you can have a method, if I can find it down here, I'm sure we've got an example somewhere. Here we go. And you can have this like function that runs native code for Android when you call a function in Dart. Simplified, read all the docs. However, this one here is what you need to do, and I'm pretty sure it's probably on the Android. What's it? I think it's called Kiosk.
Yeah, kiosk mode. Yeah.
Search kiosk. It comes up. Lock kiosk mode, or something like that. Yeah, you can go look it up, but basically, fully. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. You need to be on a fully managed device. You need this version, and I know, let you like sort of go look at this, but basically that becomes a native, starting at version 9, set lock task enabled. And you can go read up on how you do this with the native code. And obviously you want to make sure that you've got correct ways to leave the kiosk mode, because you might need some sort of, admin code. You type in a pin to exit kiosk mode and also do a function for that, because obviously you don't want to be stuck with your phone in kiosk mode.
Yep, intimately familiar with that, as we're doing a bunch of work in that right now.
All right, moving on. Right, Stefano Voldi.
Seems lagging.
WebView on desktop seems lagging, missing. Oh, as in like they haven't done it yet. Any official plans about it? So, do they actually have platform views on desktop? I'm not even sure. I believe you can do platform views on desktop. I just don't think they've implemented WebView. So you have to remember though that what you can do, Stefano, is you're saying it's missing and lagging. Well, start implementing it. It's open source, and then you can submit a PR, right? Like start looking into it, right? Or get some people in the community together who want this and start doing it, right? I know there's only so many people, right? And it's like there's demanding about, we want all this, great, and it will happen. But to be honest, you can be the catalyst to make it happen, right?
And always start by looking for issues on it, because it might be that there's already a conversation going on about this, and now it's at a certain stage of, well, we'll implement it as soon as we handle these other 7 things or whatever. But to start the conversation, file an issue. That's why everything's all open source in GitHub, able to file issues there. Or if there's no issue on it, be the catalyst for it, make it happen. I mean, I've changed a number of things already without having to write a single line of code. I've changed a bunch of stuff already in the distributions, and it's wonderful to be able to do that by just filing an issue.
For sure. But the other part of this is so go research the current plugins and see how they're made, and pick one of them and use it as your maybe you're on Mac and you want to go look at the iOS one, see how it's implemented, see how you might be able to implement your own for Mac desktop or vice versa. But if it supports platform views, then you can just go take, for example, Windows. I know you can initialize the COM component object model system. I won't go into it, but the COM system, and actually create a IE frame. Basically, I don't. It's the Edge now, I guess, or something else. But the point is, the OS supports. Here's a web view. Set a URL on it, and you can have that ability to and drop that with platform views into your app. Then, so there's no limitation here, right? Like, obviously, as Randall said, if they don't support platform views, again, they need to certain things need to be done to implement this kind of top level, and platform views is the thing. So as long as platform views are supported, I think I've seen like OpenGL working on Windows native and stuff. So I think they are supported, but I can't remember. But yeah, hopefully that puts you in the right direction to figuring that one out. Yeah. Anything? Anyone else?
No, covers it.
All right. Next question. What would you recommend to Flutter Genius to join Google as? Would you recommend for Flutter Genius to join Google as a developer? I mean, I'll be honest with you.
Seniors. Become seniors first. It's smarter.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, right? Look, if you don't try, you never know. So you may try, and they accept you. Brilliant, right? You've got your job you want, and you're at Google, and you're learning from all these other experts and everything else, right? So, but also, if the job says you need these qualifications and you don't have that, or some experience, you don't have that, then you're just going to get rejected at the door. So but I wouldn't recommend it to be honest. I mean, I feel like a lot of the development companies are going to want more experienced people, but that just might be my mind, because there's lots of roles in lots of companies to do all sorts of different things. It doesn't have to be making apps, right? It doesn't have to be development. It can be things around development, right? So there's plenty of opportunities. So yeah, try. You don't know if you succeed or not, right?
Yep.
Is it possible to create a function
Param.
that can be async or not, and check if it's async and await conditionally? Yes, it's called future or. There you go. Literally is. It's built in. So basically, where is it?
All the async stuff is just smoke and mirrors for futures. So just go inside and actually check it what it does really.
So this sort of explains it. Basically, you use future or t, and t is your base type, and it's a type that represents either a future of t or t, and you can pass either. So that's the asynchronous version and the synchronous version in a sense, and it's says stand in, compartment area, mix in, blah 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 blah. Anyway, yeah, so you just use future or, and it does it all for you. So you just set your parameter type to that with whatever your actual underlying type is, and it will just work. And you just do a wait. You treat it as if it's asynchronous with a wait inside your function. And then if it's not, it returns immediately as synchronous, right? So that's all handled for you. All right. Get through these. How do I detect that a device token is expired before sending out notifications using SM? You cannot.
Yeah.
So when you send the message to FCM servers, it returns back if the device token is invalid, and at that point you remove it from your database and don't try and send to it again, right? Because you're just wasting your resources and Google's because it is now invalid, right? So yeah, you can't detect ahead of time. But what you do is the first time you do detect it, you then remove it. It's that simple.
You just build a handler on the error that captures this one and reissue a new token. That's what you do on any communication, any tokens anywhere, right? So you can have HTTP calls and the token expires, and then you have essentially interceptor. Interceptors goes there and checks, okay, try to reissue a new one because this one expired. It wasn't rejected, it wasn't canceled, it wasn't removed or whatever. You just go for a new one. Yeah. So this one call essentially got wasted. Yeah.
There's also a couple of other little bits around this. If you're using the batch endpoint, it will, and you send like 10 messages at once, it will give you an array of 10 answers for like success or failures. And so they match up by index ID, right? So the first entry in the answer list is going to be the first message that you sent in the message list, right? So you can match up which ID is broken. Also, there's services out there that offer push services, and they do all this for you. So that's another option there. You could use an API and then manage all the device tokens and everything like that. So that's another option. All right. Ethan, if I pass a text controller to a child widget, do I need to dispose of it in both the parent and child widget, or could I leave the child stateless and only dispose of it in the parent? Okay, so this is completely up to you and how you want to build your widget. You don't dispose in both. You can only be disposed once, right? But the point here is it's normally the way it works is someone takes ownership of an object, right? So in this case, normally the person, the widget or
parent
class that constructed the text controller is the one that disposes of it. But obviously you might have something like that widget goes away and he wants to hand the text controller to another widget. And at that point, you want some mechanism to say, okay, you've now got this. It's your problem to dispose of it, right, at a later date. And that's again up to the way you want to manage it. And this is the deep. Here, Ethan, just imagine like it was C++ and you had to do this on every variable, because that's what it's like. Basically, when you have an object that has to have a destruction, then these are kind of problems that you have. I actually want to mention this. So, have you guys actually seen the new features for Dart that around this solve this kind of problem? Ooh. So I'll bring it up on stream here. So there's now finalizable. Is it finalizable? No, finalizer. Is it finalizer? Right. So basically, in Dart, yeah, finalizer. In Dart, a class is finalized. That is, it's freed from memory. I mean, it's bigger. A Dart object is freed from memory. It's finalized, right? But this allows you to attach what's called a finalizer to any Dart object. When the Dart object gets garbage collected, it will call a function. And that means you can clean up automatically, which is really nice. So, for example, here's an example here where you've got a database and you create a finalizer that closes the database connection. And then when you connect to the database, it attaches the finalizer to this. And then when you close, it detaches it. And this way, if you forget to close it, forget to close the connection, it will definitely get closed by the finalizer when the object gets garbage collected. And these are the kind of nice things you can do now with this. So it doesn't strictly solve this issue with the dispose. I'm just trying to give this as an example. This is the impetus for this kind of idea where you need to have some sort of managed sort of system like open and close, and they have to be matched. And in that case, finalize is a perfect example where this comes in really handy.
It seems like this would be the solution for everything that we have to add in terms of dispose or close or whatever. But I think the problem is the uncertain GC time. We don't know how long it'll be before it actually gets taken away. And I think that's probably the concern there.
I don't know. It's not that bad because essentially it's about, yes, that would be a concern, but not by much, right? Because GCs happen quite regularly, and they actually do have like a timeout on them, right? I think the real problem here is that you need a way of taking ownership, and it doesn't have that, right? Like you can't say that this object is now taking ownership and detach from that one and now attach from this one. That's all. It's quite a manual system. You can do that, but you have to put that in there. So it's not just magically make it happen. But I do like the idea, and I think who came up with it? It was with hooks, right? With Remy's hooks, widget hooks, right? Where was it in that one? I can't remember. But basically, the idea, right, where you just create it, and then when the dispose of the parent widget gets done, it disposes of all those things. Like, that's a really nice system. Yeah, and I feel like if we had like an annotation that was on these like text editing controller at disposable. And then maybe when you construct, you say auto dispose true, and then that's it, right? Like it would register itself against the widget that was constructed in, or some magical thing like that. And then when that widget gets disposed, and that could be put in boilerplates of the platform, right? Like that's going to be a nice, simple thing.
Or macros. When we get macros, this will be easy.
Static meta programming for the win.
Everything's going to be easy when we get macros. Everything.
This is going to be so overpromised. It's going to be so overpromised. And when people get it, they'll be like, "It doesn't do it.
It doesn't do any of that stuff."
I'm gonna be able to just write @program and it's done. That's what macros.
Yeah, that it's called ChatGPT.
Had to be brought up every show. There we go. Yeah, you succeeded.
Right.
Ding.
Moving on. On the limit data flow, meant to ask how to limit access to Firebase just for specific user of a Flutter app instead of anyone just copying your own pasting in the browser. Yeah.
So you have rule sets. You put a rule set for essentially what is the path, and for example, you structuring the path to the document, which is the user ID on the way. And if it doesn't matches what you logged in with, you don't have access to it. That's what you can do. So there is an example like this in I think somewhere on the website was example which was actually showing the access to the private place for the user.
So you can do this, right? And then where it says request.auth, you can actually add .id equals and then their ID. And you can actually do .email as well. There's some definite examples for doing that in here somewhere. But basically, you can basically specify structuring security rules.
Simon, can you pause this gist somewhere? I'm gonna give it to you. On
Yeah. If you've got one.
Which way? I can send it on.
Stick in the private, whatever.
Yeah, try this. If you can see it. That's the bit that we were using before.
Yeah, I'll bring that up. Here we go.
Does it open? Yeah, so it was a bit of fun part here. So there are two functions defined. One is giving you, if you're authorized, the second one, you're authorized with a specific ID.
I say, yeah. So you take the user ID and then is authorized, checks to see if they've actually got the authorizing user ID for this request is the ID that you've given. And then, is authorized with ID. Yeah. And then saying, then it matches and the document has to exist. Yeah. Okay. I'll put that in the chat so that people can access that. But yeah, there's a lot of complicated things you can do with the rules, and the documentation does cover a lot of these scenarios, and there is examples for all of this. And just finding them right now is not going to be what I'm going to spend the time on the stream doing. All right, but hopefully that helps. What else do we have? Billy. How can I manage this version number that appears on the iOS App Store from within the Flutter space? PubSpec YAML Act. I'd rather not do this. Yeah, you just use just edit the version in PubSpec. That's it. So if the problem here is if you've changed it in Xcode, it's now set to a string and a number in Xcode. What you need to do, make sure you're obviously using Git. I'm going to tell you this. It's a really simple way of doing this, but you have to make sure you're using Git and have it all committed. You delete the iOS. So once you've done that and you're all committed and you're all pushed, delete the iOS folder, run flutter create dot, and it will reconstruct your iOS folder, right? And then you can then look at your Git, use your Git tool or browser, whatever you're using, and then recover your app icon and whatever lines you want from the config files that make it your app. And you're back to the default, which is like $ curly brace Flutter version, app version.
Yeah, something like that.
And then what happens is if you edit your PubSpec YAML version, it will update the iOS and the Android project's version numbers. In the very early days, we didn't have this. In the very early days, that didn't work. And we were just manually having to go change it in all these places. But now we have that. So yeah, it will work, but you need to probably reconstruct your iOS projects, plist files and stuff. But that should sort your problem out. Right. And that's all she wrote, I think, on the questions. I don't see any more.
Right at the top of the hour. How did we do that? Finally, we actually ended.
We're ending on time.
Right on time. Or Simon can do live coding for a while, or he can rehearse what he wants to do next week. So we can choose. We can end the show on time for once. Or
we can, I mean, we can have a play. If who wants to, do any of you guys want to stick around for a few minutes and have a look at Dart 3? No, that's a no. All right. Let's. It's been a long couple of hours. I mean, look, we promised some, so I'm gonna have a play around. But if you guys want to head off, feel free. But we did talk about this, and
we'll be here another 45 minutes now.
We're not going to definitely not be that long.
Yeah. You say that every time. Thanks, Swab. Thanks, John. Swab.
Right. Let's see. So so let's see if I can sort out this sharing here. Where are we? So apparently, what we do. Load it up. 1 minute. He just says no.
How do we fill in while he's fixing things?
Sorry.
He's busy. He's typing quickly. He's typing as fast as he can, and I don't know what to do to kind of fill in while you're doing that, because we already told people to go away if they had questions, so there's no more questions. Yeah.
Sing
I don't know.
Dance.
Yeah.
Right. Let's make the fonts bigger.
Oh, I can announce my news. Just my one news. The Flutter repo added a tag for candidate for 3.8. just yesterday. So that's usually what has to happen about 2 to 3 weeks before a new release. So I'm not saying anything except this is historically true. We have a 3.8 tag now. So that's an interesting thing. Might have Flutter 3.8
nice.
before end of February. Maybe.
I mean, they do, if you go look, they do.
They don't tell us.
They release every quarter. They release every quarter. Is it beta every quarter? And is it like every year they have a stable? I can't remember what the there is. It's all on the release.
It was a stable every quarter. It was going to be stable every quarter.
Stable every quarter. Stable every quarter, and then release. Yeah, there's a monthly like betas or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, and when is Dart 3 expected in the main channel? When it's ready. That's all we can ever answer. When it's ready, it will be expected on the main channel, but not before.
Okay.
Yeah,
here we go.
definitely. It'll be beta before it becomes stable. So it's not beta yet. It's not close yet. Not close to that yet. In fact, weirdly, Flutter beta is now behind Flutter stable. This is an unusual period. There just hasn't been a new beta release since stable came out.
I think it has.
Nope.
I think I saw.
I tracked these. There's been Dart betas released, but not Flutter betas.
Oh, maybe that was
only Flutter beta is still behind Flutter stable.
Right. Let's see. I'm glad someone does. Right.
How fast can Simon type here?
We
got a screen. This is good.
Okay, that's good. We're getting there. Let's see. So I'm over here this is the Dart 3 Alpha announcement article, and I'll post this in the chat so everyone can go look at this if they want to.
Cool.
So it was announced, and all this other stuff. We'll get there in a second. But if we scroll down to the red bottom, I think it said
there are instructions there of how to do this.
Yeah, there was when I was looking at it. It said
yeah.
Oh yeah, this is one thing that I also kind of, despite we have a vanilla SDK constraint, yeah, you have to make sure that you don't have it's less than 4 now, not less than 3. You have to be careful about that. Sorry, I know that's pretty small. Let me get that bigger for everyone. Yeah, so we need to make sure that we have that constraint. I think there's also basically here we go. Yeah, here we go. Next step, Dart 3 is available today in the Dart Dev channel and in the Flutter master channel. So I've switched to master. I've run Flutter upgrade, and if I do Flutter B, should give us our Dart version. We're on here. The Dart version 3. There we go. Dev. Brilliant. So cancel that. Right, so it should mean that if I now edit this little test project and set my constraint to minimum of 300 -0.0 and less than 4 of get happen. Will it blend?
Yeah.
Okay.
It did. It changed.
Great.
Look at that.
So,
wow. I'm already impressed there, Simon. I'm already impressed. A pub get that doesn't blow up. You know how rare that is?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just in general.
Yes, I do. Right.
It's always amazing when that happens.
Alpha.
It's like whenever it says fetching pod, I always go, oh, this may or may not work. Oh, we don't know. Or Gradle. Whenever I see Gradle, I go get a soda because it's just gonna take time and I'm not gonna be happy afterwards.
Yep. Have to spend a lot of time fixing things.
Yeah. Or Googling for how to fix things.
Yeah.
Way too often. Way too often.
Okay, so we have some working Dart code here with Dart 3. So what are the things we can try is the question. So
You have to enable the flags. I think the flags are still needed.
That's what I was just trying to look for. Like, was there? Let's go to the top here and see if there's anything in that.
I saw some Medium posts showing how to do this, but I'm trying to think of how I can Google for it so I can help you. Yeah, there were certain switches you put in the analyzer, and that is sufficient. Because since the analyzer also controls the compiler.
Yeah, it's
in the analysis file.
It's experimental. And we did this before. Experimental analysis.
Good. That got you the right Google keys. Yes, I see that.
No, I can't remember what it's not. What did that?
Yeah.
Which article you do? The one I found that looks like it's talking about that is it's by Michael. Did you find it?
Go on. No, go on. Which one are you got talking about?
The one from Michael and Medium. It's called Introducing Dart 3 Alpha from the 25th. Talks about
that's the one. That's the one I'm looking at. Yeah.
Is that the one that you have? Okay.
Yeah. Is there steps in here somewhere?
There's an analysis file in there, right?
And what's the link there? Adding the 23 new features. Is that just talking about the individual features? Oh yeah, it's just a list.
Yeah, that's not good.
It doesn't go through adding them.
Yeah, analysis.yaml. You got to figure out what to put in there.
So this is what we looked at before. So this is it: experimental flags, and basically you can pass enable experimental when you're running it, and then you put these in the
there it is, right there. There. Yeah. Copy that and put that in your analyzer file.
Yeah.
So
that should be enough. Actually.
Oh, here, look, it's already there.
It's already there.
It's already there from last time.
Oh, nice. Yeah, you got this. Just do it.
Yeah, we looked at this. You got this, buddy. You got this. Right. Where are they? So here we go. Let's see. Sound variants, inference, type promotion, records patterns. All right. I mean, like, they're enabled. This is how you enable experimental. But I think that just enables it inside. Well, actually, this is working then, because look, it's not erroring. Hang on, let's have a look.
Right.
Let's do return. If it's not Nairobi, let's return 0, 0. And then here, say print geolocation in London. Oops. Dot. Oh, look. Yeah, that looks like one. Okay.
$1. Yeah. Look at that. Ooh.
If I run this, we should see an error. This one. So this is what we need to do. We need to run it with this. That's the bit I was missing. When we were playing around with this before, and I know we did something. I don't know. But okay. So in here, in VM options specifically, it's enable experimental records. Tells us in here actually. Comma patterns.
So you have to do both the analysis file and the command line for Dart run.
So this changes the analysis server to recognize it and syntax highlight it correctly. Yeah. And then when you build it, compile it, that's what's the runtime flags are for. There you go. Hello 0. So if I say Nairobi.
Wow, it is.
And hit play, we get the first value coming back from this. So this works. Wonderful. So multiple return times. What were the other fabulous things in records?
I don't remember.
There's some examples I found somewhere, but let's have a look. See if is anything inside the.
There's some examples in the spec.
This is the other one, right? Like you can actually pull out you can actually now pull out variables. We tried this before and it didn't work. Oh look, that's working now. So now we can do $lat and
Oh, yeah, it's referring to it. Look at that. It is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, it's referring to both of those. Yes. Wow. It matches. Ah.
I know these are simple
Ship it.
things, right?
Ship
But
it.
ship it, right? Ship it. I mean, at the end of the day, though,
Make it
at
work.
the end of the day, I don't know how long I've wanted multiple return types, but this is just part of it, right? Like this is.
It's not even patterns yet. Patterns.
So
are
does that mean
cool.
we can do like? Does that mean we can do like? No. Sealed class
I think
language
seal's a
could
different.
be enabled.
Yeah.
Seal's a different experiment. There's a different experiment for that.
Yeah, and I'm going to add it.
In 2 places.
It's right in 2 places.
And restart the analysis server, I guess.
I think it came out under a different name, like class restrictions, because it's more than about sealed now. It's about sealed and final and a bunch of other things that they added. So it might be not under
I think that might be that class modifiers. Should we add that as well?
Yeah, that's it.
Let's add both. It can only break.
Right.
Yeah.
Or work.
Cheap bits. It's not like we're paying by the minute to broadcast this thing or anything, Thank God. I'd be broke.
Right. Oh, so it's recognized sealed class now. That's nice.
Wow.
So what do we have with that now?
Seal of approval. Right.
Let's
We
grab
have a
these
seal of
things.
approval.
So this is that kind of notion of let's bring in maths. Why not?
It allows the pattern to be exhaustive without having to worry about it because the class.
Well, that's the other thing we haven't tried: the pattern matching. Formatter. The formatter did not like this. That auto formatter. Oh, what happened there?
The formatter's not working. Not yet.
I hit format and suddenly it was all right.
Yeah.
So I mean that's working, and look, we've got the pattern matching here on the return. This is so nice.
Mm-hmm.
I know it sounds silly, but
yeah, it's getting there.
That totally did not. Yeah, the formatter is definitely not understanding that.
That's the last thing to get fixed.
I'm watching the commits on both the SDK and the Flutter repo, and so the Dart and Flutter and language repos. I watch those. I have a command that updates that. I must pull that about 10, 15 times a day. And it's weird, 24 hours, day and night, there are more commits to all of these repos. This thing is really getting intensely worked on.
I really like this. This is another thing I've really missed, like switch statements that can return a value. I know it sounds silly, but it's so awkward when you have like a switch statement in a function. I end up having to make a function just so I can put a return in each of the cases, right?
Right.
So it just escapes the logic flow and returns immediately. So I think I really like that as well. We've got some questions coming in actually about what we're doing here. So what was this one? Sealed class with result having empty data error alone in it. Yes, you can do that. Exhaustive stuff. And then I think sealed class would be helpful in replacing .z. Yes, indeed.
It will replace the tuple library, the TUPLE tuple library. It'll replace that. But I don't think it's going to replace like why we have darts or FP dart, because you still have the higher order types, the higher kinded types that need to be generated. What I can see
though is those libraries becoming a lot simpler, a lot more streamlined, and also becoming more efficient when it comes to running them, using them inside your app because of the language changes.
Yep.
Yeah, because like the pattern, like I was thinking about this right now, the way either works in FP Dart is that it has to also have a class for left and a class for right that are subclasses. And then it has to actually put the code in separate files for how to handle a left on this thing or a right on this thing. Whereas now it's all going to be in the file for either. And it's going to say if we match a left or if we match a right. And it's going to be so much nicer. That's going to be just night and day. Very cool. So FP Dart is going to get a huge rewrite, I'm sure. My favorite class for that.
I mean, I get final classes, but I also don't like them. People have abused final classes so badly in Java, it hurts me to just think about it. Because there's so many times when you want to extend some functionality of some library or something, and it's all final. It's like they make suddenly you make, or in the case of Java, you can make functions final as well. You just can't override them, and it just. But why? Why restrict the developer, right? You know, if they want to extend or modify, or it's very frustrating that. I get it, but also, yeah, it kind of annoys me. Right. Anyway, so a class that can be used as a mixin is basically what we originally had. Every class could be a mixin. Do you remember that in the original, the Dart one? And then we had mixins were added. So this is kind of interesting. I guess it just means I don't know what that actually. I mean, it just basically makes it mixing.
Means something.
Because you can just say like extends, state T, right, and do that like you would normally do like on let's say a mixing, right? You say, this won't work.
Mixing T.
We're in a Dart project, but yeah, I mean,
yep.
Portability.
Here's a question.
Why didn't they let us access the patterns variables directly? You can. I don't see a reason why it wouldn't work. Let's try it. It was just an example, right? But there's no reason why you couldn't do this .lat. Right?
No, that's red. Why is that red?
Well, because I think it's
no, because it's not then extracted, right? That's correct. You used
you didn't put the names in up above when you have the return value. When you do the return value, bring that back in. Bring the return value back in. Where you deleted the return value above the word hello.
Yeah.
Bring that back in. Now put : lat : long. And that will make variables called lat and long that you can now use.
That's what's done here. That's what I've got.
No, you don't have colons in front of lat and long.
Right.
Oh, maybe not. Okay, I'm sorry. I might be confused.
No, I don't. No, this is making variables lat and long, right?
Okay,
and
fine.
then I can use them.
There's
right?
something about colons that make it automatically.
I think that's more about pattern matching. So it's like you can match the X parameter of return and put it into the variable, whatever it is. I can't remember. I'll actually look at this. We can when we haven't played around with it. I'm sure. But yeah, I think I see what you're saying. Basically saying that why can't we just do -X because we've got a named parameter? And I think the answer is yes, you will be able to do that if I remember rightly, but it's probably not there yet. Again, it's all experimental. Remember, it's all experimental. Like we tried this a couple of weeks back on the stream, and it just didn't work. It just blew up. It just none of it worked. Right now, we've actually got working stuff. So yeah.
The return type needs to be
named. It is named, right? We've got X and Y named return.
Oh, maybe down where it says return : lat long.
Oh, you mean like X and Y here? Oh, no. What was that? You not do the what was that magical thing you can?
There was something like that. Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out before next week. How about that?
And what was that? What was the? Because there's like. I don't remember. You got the record type, and then you've kind of got like.
Yeah, I think I'm confusing record and patterns because they're two things that use each other, but not.
Yeah, they're tightly coupled, right? In essence. Well, let me have a look at that. See, let's have a quick look, and I've got the ticket here about it all, so we could take a quick look. These examples in here that are not like. I think they're in the feature specification, ones we actually want to look at. So multiple return types, algebraic data types. So yeah, multiple return types. Yeah. list of mapping of patterns. So I think this is that you can actually return back a map and then extract named variables from that, right? That's pretty cool.
Cool.
Yeah, we
All right.
I don't know. I think I mean, yeah.
The thing is, there's going to be more that works every week, so we could probably just keep tracking this and just do this every week and see what else works.
It's in here. Like, this is what you're talking about. Oops.
In
I
big,
scrolled too far. Here we go.
Big.
I'm going to lose the scroll position.
Yeah. Ah.
Hang on. I get back. What was this?
Yeah. Oh, it's in the pattern for extraction.
This is about pattern matching. Yes, this is about pattern matching extraction.
That's where I was remembering it from.
So this is a double. So it's like you can say like double, and then it extracts like double or whatever, right? This is obviously about wouldn't work in this case, but this is about pattern matching the values. But yeah, they did this. Look, like. What is this? I don't think this.
Put the colon in the return type. We're getting suggestions from the crowd here.
Put the colon in the return type. Yeah, we did that, right? We did that earlier. You mean like here?
We tried that.
We tried that. Like it just. I mean, the thing is,
maybe. I don't know. Well,
I mean,
maybe it doesn't work either.
Yeah. The thing is, it's showing errors, right? Like. Because it's just not finished yet. Like it's all experimental, right? Like this.
Yep.
And I can't see like or colon double here maybe.
Who knows?
Right. I mean, I might be able to hit play and it actually does something versus not, right? But yeah, see that's this.
Yeah. Next week. We can do it next week. We're coming up on the bottom of the hour. We should just have a half hour over here.
Right, let's do that. Yeah.
Just suggesting.
Right, so I think you could see how we did it, right? So all we've done here is we went in, and I'll drop this in the chat if anyone wants to have a play. There's the analyzer flags I've added. Make sure you got the right spaces because it's YAML, and then when you run Dart from the current master branch. You have to run it with experiment enabled.
And you got to flip the pub spec to 3 and 4.
Oh yeah, and your pub spec should have a minimum of 3 and 4, which is this constraint here.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, and that should get you into the place where you can start playing around with this, and if you want to, I can see there being some interest to the multiple return types and the switch the switch pattern matching here, for example. So that's brilliant.
I'm still predicting that this is significant enough, but also is going to need to be used at such a fundamental level that it's going to make the Dart tour about another half hour longer, maybe an hour longer.
Oh yeah. Who was it?
But that's essential. I mean, it's the language is growing up. There are more basics just to cover the basics now, but that's okay because we don't need a simple JavaScript-like language anymore. We want a language that has contemporary, modern features to be able to attract people that are go. Well, I don't want that because it's not like Rust. You know how many times I've heard that. Let's make Dart contemporary knowledge, contemporary strategies. It's time for Dart to keep moving forward like that, and I'm glad the Dart team is addressing this head on.
Oh, for sure. Here's another great use case, right? So this was posted earlier by Flutter GDE Maniclius, and it says here, look, so you can see, has next step. Sends a boolean. If it's this boolean, send these 2 parameters of this, then send that one. You know what I mean? Like you can see how this works, right? And this is the kind of common thing that we see now. But in the language of patterns, we should be able to do this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So we actually we can actually return back the set of name parameters to be merged into these parameters like this.
Yep.
Yep, it'll be great.
which just reads so much nicer, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I can't wait for the level of questions Stack Overflow is going to get as this stuff starts rolling out. It's already it's 250 a day already. I'm sorry, I'm only reading subject lines most of the time now. I'm not reading every Stack Overflow post anymore. I can't. There's no way.
No.
I'm only looking for ones that mention Sync Fusion and GetX to make sure that I tag all those. But that's about it. It's the only ones that I actually always look at. If you mention GetX, I do have a comment for you. If you mention Sync Fusion, I have a comment for you. So yeah. Right.
All right. All right. I think that's it then. Thank you for joining us. And
thanks, John.
Yeah.
Thanks for sticking it out.
Yeah, and
we have to be here.
just to remind everyone before we finish up here, the call for papers is open for fluttercon.dev. It'll be the largest Flutter convention so far, I believe, and that's going to be held in Berlin on the 5th to 7th of July. So put that in your diaries, don't lose out, and you can actually go get tickets now, and there will be discount codes available. So at least get in your diaries, don't forget, and you'll be promptly reminded as much as I can, because I want this to be the biggest, best Flutter event ever. And I'm going to
it's 4th of July weekend. 4th of July weekend, darn it.
It is 4th of July for America, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nice time away.
No. You missed the fireworks. The fireworks are cool.
I'm tied
up
hot
at dog picnics.
Volleyball national championships.
Yeah, there you go. See, that's important. That's important.
Right. All right. Well, thanks everyone for coming, and we'll see you again. Bye for now.
166 hours. We'll be back.